Here we go. We'll call this Committee of the Whole meeting to order on February 26th, 2025 at 6 p.m. Before we stand, I'd like to do a moment of silence this evening. Many of you may know Danny Wheat. Danny Wheat passed away over the last few days. Just a little bit about Danny, member of the Knights of Columbus. He was part of the Lincoln Elks Lodge for over 50 years, a member of the Humane Society. He was also a precinct committeeman, and he was a liquor commissioner for the city of Lincoln for many years. So if we could do a moment of silence for Danny. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Is there anybody who'd like to speak under public participation this evening? Okay, for the record, there is no public participation. We will start this evening with the oath of office for Brennan Elsass, firefighter. Brennan?
Thank you. Please raise your right hand. Say aye.
I,
Your name.
Brennan Elsass,
And repeat after me. Having been appointed
have been appointed
to the office of firefighter
to the office of firefighter
in the city of Lincoln,
the city of Lincoln,
the county of Logan,
the county of Logan,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I'll support the Constitution
that I'll support the Constitution
of the United States
of the United States
and the Constitution
and the Constitution
of the state of Illinois,
of the state of Illinois,
and that I'll faithfully discharge the duties
and I'll faithfully discharge the duties
of the office of firefighter
of the office of firefighter
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
Congratulations, sir.
Congratulations. Okay, the next item up on the agenda is item number 5, City of Lincoln Lighting Project. We have Justin Chager on the call with us virtually. Justin's going to walk us through this project, and then Ms. Bateman can fill in where we need to. She's worked with him on it. So, Justin, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I'm assuming, does everybody have the handout that was sent out? The project proposal?
It was in the packet, yes.
Okay, great. I worked with,
They're admiring your background.
it was more appropriate than my office. My office is not complete yet, so I figured this might work a little bit better. I worked with Peggy on this project to be able to inspect all of the city-owned facilities, to take a look at the current lighting, and be able to offer this program that is an incentive through Ameren that allows for the upgrading of lighting fixtures. It's part of their efficiency program, and at the request of Mayor Welch and working with Peggy, we worked through City Hall, the Hamilton Street Garage, and the wastewater facility out on the south side of town. We did not need to go through the new building out on Limit for the police department, because both of those were recent, so those all had upgraded LED lighting, so we didn't have to do any inspection, and those aren't included in the program because they're all up to date with new LED lighting and motion sensors, and so they wouldn't qualify anyways because they're already upgraded. So we went through those 3 facilities and identified basically the city hall needs a lot of upgrades because there's a lot of old fluorescent tubes there. And with this program, not only would those all be upgraded to LEDs, they would be motion and light sensor. So the light sensor will, so during the day they'll have them dim, and as it gets darker they'll brighten up, so that helps save electricity. Motion sensors, so that way if there's no motion in a room, they're off, thus saving more electricity. And being LED, your LEDs roughly are about 80% less, use 80% less electricity. So all of the lighting in City Hall would be upgraded. That would be the main floor, the clerk's office, mayor's office, the admin office, the council chambers, and then also all the fire department offices, the bunkhouse, the truck bays, all of that lighting would be upgraded to LED lighting. And then there's some wall packs outside that would be upgraded. And then also there's a couple exit lights that haven't been upgraded to LED. There's a couple that are existing, but there's a couple that need to be upgraded. So it will include all of that lighting at City Hall. The garage had a handful of long LED runs, or long fluorescent runs, excuse me. So all of that would be upgraded. There's, I think we identified that all the wall packs were already LED at the garage. And then the wastewater treatment plant had several different areas where there was fluorescent, there was a lot of wall packs, and then a big upgrade is where the out behind them where the mulch is processed, the waste is processed. There's a big covered area where all that mulch is stored. There's a bunch of old high bays in there that will be part of the upgrade as well. So that will allow them to be more visible, be able to see better there, and use a lot less electricity at that location as well. So this, and part of the urgency on this program is going away from Ameren. They're sunsetting this program at the end of this year, so we want to make sure we take advantage of it. And also in talking with Peggy, a lot of that lighting at especially City Hall, because that's where we started. A lot of that lighting is old, needs to be updated. It doesn't. The color matches. A lot of the colors are off, and then especially like in the bathrooms, we could put motion sensors, and in different areas definitely need some attention to be upgraded there as well. You can see from the proposal, once you combine everything, the return on investment is about 15 months based on the energy savings from all of the lighting. And Ameren is going to provide just over $45,000 worth of lighting between LEDs, the fixtures, the sensors, the wall packs, the high bay lighting, all of that. They're going to provide all of that. The city would be responsible for the labor to put that in. And then, like I said, the return on that labor cost is about 15 months because of the energy savings of all of those fixtures that will be upgraded.
Any questions for Justin? Alderman Bateman?
So we recently did this at the dealership where I work, and the return on investment was actually less than what proposed. I don't know if that's the case here, but it is greatly appreciated. We actually removed some fixtures because they're too bright. I'm assuming Justin will all go daylight 5000K instead of warm, or what?
This will actually, it's all app controlled, and you can actually control the colors. So if the color needs to be adjusted, it can actually be adjusted per fixture. So it's not a set color, so it can be adjusted on the fly if needed.
That'd be good, because some of the offices we have at the dealership, we've actually removed some fixtures because by converting to LED, it became so bright that you couldn't hardly see your computer screen. So that was one of my concerns, and
Yeah,
if that's the case, then that's good.
To your point, Kevin, one of the in the clerk's office, specifically where all the desks are in the main part, there's 4 runs of fluorescence, and when we were looking at the project, we were actually able to eliminate 2 of those runs and just have, and so we went from 4 to 2 just because there were going to be too much light. But then you'll also have the ability to turn those down as well if there's still too much.
Other questions for Mr. Chager? Alderman Parrott?
Besides maybe the brightness, are there any other issues that any of your clients have had that they didn't know about beforehand? Like, I don't know what to ask, I guess. Is there anything that is maybe not a positive that, we could expect?
Not that I'm aware of, just because, a lot of times with fluorescence, you'll get the flickering, you'll get the burnout, you'll get the discoloration. All of that is eliminated by the LED because at such point that the LED it won't necessarily burn out, it'll just stop working. And these, all the lighting have warranties. I apologize, I don't have the specific warranty-specific information on there, but I know that they're rated at a minimum of 50,000 hours per bulb or per pack, depending on how you want to look at it, whether it's fluorescent replacement, it'd be per bulb, or the wall packs are by the pack.
And the reason I ask, sorry, Kevin, just we recently bought a new Christmas tree. My wife likes white Christmas lights, and it's a white LED lights, and it just doesn't look quite the same as the other Christmas. And I'm just saying, it's just, I think this is going to be great for us, for the city, and if you can turn down the brightness or you can adjust it, I think that's going to be perfect for it as well, too. Thank you.
Alderman Bateman?
So ours is CWLP. They gave us extra bulbs and stuff. Well, is Ameren going to do the same? You get the occasional defective bulb. They gave us extra bulbs. We ended up only using 2 before they were all out of warranty. They going to do that here also?
I know the partner that we work with, they always order extra, and they are very good about backing up their warranty. So if something, I've worked with this company for about 7 years, and they're very good. We've done several of these projects around Lincoln, and they always end up delivering about 10 to 15% more than what's on the schedule, just to make sure that if there's any dead on arrivals or anything, there's extra there. So they always have extra available in the project, and then they'll also back it up as well.
Ms. McClellan?
Just because they are so bright sometimes, is there ever a problem with shadow? I know some of them that I've that we've had, there was a shadow cast because the light was so bright.
A lot of these will be, especially the fluorescents, they'll replace the whole fixture and they'll be diffused. And then, like I said, you will be able to adjust the color and the brightness of the bulb. So not just the brightness, so that color can be changed from that real intense white all the way down to that yellow. So you can literally tune the fixtures. I'm talking specifically about the fluorescents because that's where everybody's working. You can tune those based on the situation, and also too, they follow the sun. So especially the clerk's office was a big one that we were talking about. That the sun comes in those windows, so they have sensors on them that will dim them down, so that way as the sunlight comes in, they're not overpowering, so you don't have all that sun and all that bulb light as well. And as the sun diminishes, then they'll brighten up, so that they work in conjunction with it as well.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
Mr. Gonzo.
Thank you, Mayor. What is the cost of each of these bulbs?
I sent this over. So specifically, like for example, a 4-foot or an 8-foot or a 4-lamp T8. So if we switch like a T8 8-foot strip to an LED strip, those run 59, 20 divided by 8. Those run about $132 per bulb.
How long do they last typically?
They're rated for 50,000 hours, which if you just did straight math, so divided by 24 hours, you're talking, if you ran them 24 hours straight off, you'd be talking 2,000 days, 365. So if you ran them straight, they would run for 5 years. If you ran them all the time straight for 5 years. So if you break that down to 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, you're chopping, you're running about 20 to 25 years rating on those.
And do they have any warranty on them, or you did mention a warranty, but what is?
I believe they have that 50. They're rated for that 50,000 hours. So that's what
Okay.
they're rated for. And if there's an issue, then we can get them swapped out.
Thank you.
Ms. Bateman.
Justin, when it comes to replacement bulbs, do we just get them from any supplier, or?
They're somewhat specific. This supplier is A&D Electric out of Litchfield, but they're not using something very proprietary, so they can be switched out with basic LED replacements. So it's not, you have to have this one specific bulb. It's very generic type lighting, so that way it can be swapped out in the future for similar generic style lighting. So that way it's not like this one and only bulb that was produced at this one specific time can work.
And can you explain to the council that it's not Ameren that will physically come and do the work? How that
Correct.
works
So
out?
the way that it works is Ameren will send out a representative to inspect the project. They'll take a look. They'll take their before pictures, and then we use A&D Electric. And then what we actually have for this project, we have a local electrician lined up to do all the work. They will complete all of that work, and then after that is done, Ameren will come back to make sure that everything that we said we were going to do and everything was upgraded was done properly. Not necessarily done properly, but that we swapped out this fixture for this one, and here's the new fixture, and it meets their program requirements.
And then as Justin talked about the sewer, or he said clerk's office, but it was a sewer department, how bright it is in there. The sun comes in of the afternoon, and currently they shut 2 of the rows of the lights off because it is so bright in there that, so with the dimming of the lights and 2 less row of lights, it'll make a big difference in there.
Alderman Parrott.
Just another quick question here. So 10, 15 years down the road, is there going to be new technology out there that we, might need to replace these?
Possibly. I mean,
Yeah.
I know fluorescents have been around for a long time, and LEDs are constantly evolving. They're getting the whites are getting whiter, and they're shrinking the actual dyes and the diodes and everything. So there might be some new technology 20 years down the road. I just know how long fluorescents have been around, and then we went to then there was the compact fluorescent, and now we've switched to LEDs. So there could be at this point. I mean, I look at it as, you know, they're willing to, Ameren's willing to give you about almost $46,000 worth of lighting right now. So I think it's worth it to take a look at it. And but at, you know, 20 years down the road, who knows if that building will be there or what's going on. So I would imagine there's probably not going to be too many upgrades in lighting in the next 20 years.
Thank you.
Okay.
Most of our repairs is the parking lot lights. That's the ones that we repair the most, maybe 2 or 3 a year. I'm actually the lighting guy for the buildings. I bet I don't replace, and ours is over 8 years old. I bet I don't replace 5 bulbs a year that were converted to LEDs. So, I mean, they last a long time. We don't have the kind that dim. Ours are all 5,000 K. So the only complaint we have is in the smaller offices like finance and stuff. I get mine. I get them Phillips because we're out of warranty. I get Phillips bulbs. They're 4-footers. They're like $30 a piece or whatever. But I'll buy a case of 32, and I've had the same case for 4 or 5 years. But most of our complaint is in the smaller offices. We got to actually, you got 2 lights above the desk. We've turned one whole light off because it's just so bright. But we don't have the dimming technology. Ours is just on or off. And we're all running 5,000 K LEDs in the showroom and stuff. So, like I said, the big LEDs in the parking lot's the only ones that we replace frequently.
Alderman Downs.
So, Kevin, if you replace the parking lot lights 5 a year, how many lights do you have there?
Oh, at the 4 dealerships that I'm over, 250 parking lot lights.
Good. Okay. That's a good, like 2%. Okay.
I think the motion capability as well will help. I'm sure the clerk can attest to the fact that she's probably come back in and we've seen lights that were left on over the weekends on accident and things of that nature. So
Them bathroom lights where it has, please shut the light off when you leave and they're still on.
yeah.
The funny thing is she does that here, but at home she walks from room to room and leaves all the lights on.
Oh. Okay. Other questions for Mr. Chager? Okay, so would the council like to place this on the regular agenda? And yeah, it would be for the $16,180. Okay, we'll place that item on the regular agenda. Okay, Justin, anything else before we wrap up? I think the council's good with your proposal.
No, I'm good. If there's anything comes up, you've got my information.
Okay, thank you for your time, sir.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay, the next item up on the agenda is item number 6, Economic Development Commission grant approvals. In your packet, you will see that the Economic Development Grant Commission met last week, and they reviewed a structural improvement grant from Big Shot Properties LLC at 118 Commercial Drive. That includes multiple door replacements and installation. Then the amount requested is $7,385. The commission did recommend this for approval, and it's before the council for consideration. Place this on the regular agenda? Okay, we'll place this item on the regular agenda. Yeah, actually, we probably need to do that. So we'll place this on, because I have not got an update. So when the commission reviewed it, they did it contingent upon the receipt of a second bid. So I would ask the council that we put that on our vote as well, that the council, if they approve it, would be contingent upon receipt of that second bid. Everybody okay with that? Okay, thank you for pointing that out. Okay, the next item up on the agenda is item number 7, proposal for the annual grinding at the landscape waste facility. Mr. Landers.
Yes, just to give a little update on some of the changes that we made a few years ago according to the pricing schedule and things like that. All the local tree contractors have basically quit using the facility. So that's had a great impact on the volume of material that we end up getting. So I'll be coming forward with some changes that I'd like to see take place at a later date. But this addresses the pile that we have there now, that it's been about a year since we've had it ground. And the rates are, the proposed prices and everything are right there, and the services are included in the proposals. I recommend that we, R&R Services has done it the last few years, and they've done a great job. Henson Services had done it in the past, and they had left a little bit to be desired sometimes, but at the price difference here, I think we take a chance and award them the proposal, the service, the contract. One thing that I might change here with this too is on Henson's proposal, if that's the one that's approved, we'll put the signatures on there because there's no signatures included in the proposal. Just so we have signatures on there from the city and the contractor.
Alderwoman Ross.
Not to exceed $18,900. It could be less.
Other discussion by the council? Okay. Place this on the regular agenda? Okay. Place that on the regular agenda. Thank you, Mr. Landers. Okay, next item up is item number 8, discussion of adding a deputy fire chief position. Chief?
Thank you, Mayor. We talked about this a couple weeks ago. Quick history on the fire department. I started in 2000. We ran between 500 and 600 calls a year. We're now running over 3,000 calls a year. We have the same manpower as we did 25 years ago. So adding this position on the administrative side would help out immensely. There are things in the future that I'm going to be bringing to you. We have an aging fleet of trucks. We're going to have to start working on possibly looking into buying an engine in a couple of years. With the west expansion over the past 20 years and the rail traffic, we need to be looking at a second station on the west end in 5 to 10 years. There's a lot of things that need to happen, and we need to start looking at it now. The day-to-day operations, though, there's not enough hours in the day to do all the day-to-day stuff while also trying to plan for the future. There's, I think, 6 of us with 25 years plus on. We're all going to be retired within the next 4 years. So we're trying to get things set in motion in a way that will help the future. So that's kind of the big push behind getting another 40-hour administrative person down to work with me.
Alderwoman Ross?
I appreciate all the data that you have that accompanied this information. Oh, thank you. Did you hear me?
Yes, I did, ma'am.
I appreciated all that. Great job description and the information you provided, so thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Gives us something to tell other people when they ask us.
Absolutely.
Alderman Parrott?
Just real quick. So 500 to 600 calls 20 years ago per year. This year, now currently maybe 3,000. What's the difference? I mean, is there a major thing that you can point to that are there different types of calls that you guys are doing now, or because that's
substantial.
That's a big, yeah.
People call us for about everything. It's about the nicest way to say it. So whether it's true emergency or emergency to them, it's still our job to go out and do the best we can. So we do get, like I said, that's just, we have an aging community on top of it. So the call volume it's went up every single year of my career, except for, I think, 2 of the last 5 years, but it was still within 100 calls. And we're like I said, we're hovering at the 3,000 mark now.
I know, because 20, 30 years ago, we had a couple more thousand people in the city.
That's correct.
Alderman Downs?
Calling for everything.
Is the number of calls you get comparable to comparable communities?
Per man, no, we're busier. So a lot of times we're on a 4-man minimum on the operations side. At max, we have 7 members per shift, but we allow 2 off per shift. So a 5-man shift is very, very common. We can also drop down to 4 though if someone calls in sick. So it's a lot, and that's part of the reason why I try to explain. You know, the assistant chiefs, their operations, they're running calls. They're not helping me in the office, and they shouldn't be because they're running 3,000 calls. And they might be up all night long. So it's just one of those areas that I feel is lacking, and I think we could get a great benefit from it. But again, it's ultimately your decision.
Other questions from the council? Okay. So next steps on this one, if we approve this, then the budget committee will have to have those discussions to talk about funding for that position, just for awareness. And the budget committee will be starting to meet soon. Yep. Okay, so would the council like to place this on the regular agenda? Okay, perfect. Okay, thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Okay, next item up is item number 9, ground-mounted solar regulations. Mr. Hoblet or Mr. Bateman, whichever two you would like to take.
I'll start this off. I mean, I didn't have much in regards to solar input in regards to solar relegations. I kind of want to briefly address the previous deputy issue. Do you guys, typically these have been entered into the city code. So do you guys, I would presume you want me to create an ordinance putting that in the city code?
Yes.
Okay.
Be required.
All right. So I'll take the description that you put forth there, Mr. Johnson, and implement it into an ordinance. In regards to the solar ordinance,
John,
Mr.
just I'm sorry, just real quick on that topic, if I could, in the ordinance now, I think you said there was 4 for
yes,
the shift supervisors or whatever, the assistant deputy.
That is
chiefs.
correct.
Would we want to move that down to 3 since we're adding this, so we get that out of the ordinance?
That should be fixed. I would agree with that.
Okay. Okay. With that being said, then I'll implement that as well. So with the solar, Mr. Bateman and Mr. Woodhull have been working in regards to the solar regulations. The regulations put forth to you are adjustments from Mr. Woodhull's previous document that he provided to the council with some adjustments. They take the ground, as I understand, they take the ground mounted, and please correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Bateman. They take the ground mounted, they remove them from the R1 and R2 districts. They set, for the ground mounted, they set a maximum height of 12 feet, and they have more stringent fencing requirements. And then in regards to the community solar farms, I guess you could say, there's more stringent perimeter fencing requirements that is outlined in your agenda packet that was submitted to you, again, through Mr. Woodhull. Mr. Bateman, if you would like, you could take it any further.
How many people read it? 3. So I'm okay with moving this to the next cow if you guys would like. The changes, I had Mr. Woodhull just do the simple red and yellow. So if you read the current solar ordinance, the red is what we're taking out, the yellow is what we're adding in. So, and I did confirm with him, and I want to say Mr. Woodhull was going to be here tonight, but he had a very important family event, and I gave him permission, and I'm sure the mayor did too, to well, he emailed me and asked if I would take this over because he didn't want to miss his daughter's volleyball.
We had no concerns with his absence this evening.
So I did confirm that ground-mounted solar would come in front of the council for approval, and then we changed some of the things on the height of ground-mounted solar, the type of fence. I insisted on an opaque fence when it's public view. So like if you're driving down the road or it's in a residential area or whatever, so the public didn't have to look at it. I'm not saying it would be completely hidden, but it would be a lot less hidden, as in slatted chain link or shadow box fencing. The heights would be determined by the council, because then we could determine by the height of the actual unit how high we want the fence to be made. If you read some of these in here, you know, not to exceed 12 feet in height, and then if it's the type that moves totally tiltable, the fence can be no less than 6 feet in high and no taller than the panels themselves. So if you guys would like the rest of you that didn't read it, if you would like to push it to the next cow, or if you're ready to vote on it the next voting meeting, that's up to you, because we basically made it pretty simple. You just read the ordinance. He put the entire ordinance in there, and like I said, the red is what he's taking out, the yellow is what we're adding.
Alderwoman McClellan, and then Alderwoman Rolfs, and then Alderman Down.
The only question I had on it was with the fencing, and if we're trying to eliminate it looking industrial, and we say a fence no less than 6 feet, but what I was thinking is if they're going to have, if it can go up to 12 feet, do we want to just have a fence at 6 feet, or we say when they're standing at 12 feet, do we want a 12-foot fence so that you can't see the top half? I mean, I'm just saying, if we're trying to eliminate industrial, if we say it only has to be 6 feet, then they could see 6 feet of.
No, it says no less than 6 feet.
Right, but then it
So-
says no taller than the panels themselves.
Correct. So if the panels are 10 feet tall, we as the council could say that the fence could be 10 feet tall.
Right, that's what I'm
So
saying.
that's what I'm saying is if the panels are only 4 foot tall, the fencing would be no less than 6 feet. So
If they're 12 feet tall, do we want to say that the fencing has to be 12 foot tall, or?
well, I don't think we're ever going to get solar panels that are over 12 feet tall. So I know the ones that are currently looking for okay on Woodlawn Road that I discussed the last meeting are 10 foot tall. So if you know, then the council could say that the fence has to be 10 feet tall. So I think this is pretty much going to cover it. And it also gives the fact that if the people come forward and say we're having 15-foot panels, we can tell them no. So this is council approval of ground-mounted solar, not an if and or and this and that. We have the right of saying no, you can't put it in because, or you just tell them you can't use 15-foot panels. You're going to have to make your panels shorter because we want the fence to be this. So that gives the council more authority on approving ground-mounted solar.
Would it simplify it by simply stating the fence must be as tall as the panels when they're fully extended? Or will that block or obstruct the panels and their ability to harness solar? That's the question I had when I read this packet as well.
That depends on the panels and where the fence is. So if the panels are 6 feet back, then there wouldn't be a problem. Basically, what I wanted was, I wanted the opaque fencing because I didn't want to have to see it, and I wanted council to have more control on what we're allowing in the city. And that's what this ordinance does.
You have further questions?
You know what I'm saying about how it reads? It just reads, you want it hidden from view, but it can be no less than 6 feet in height and no taller than the panels themselves. But to me, that doesn't mean, does anybody else seeing?
Yeah, but height in section 2 says ground or pole mounted solar systems shall not exceed 12 feet in height.
Right, but if they're 12 feet and we say, we're not saying we have to have a fence that's 12 feet. We're just saying, I didn't see that here. It's like just no taller than the panels themselves. So we're saying they have to be at least 6 feet and they can be no taller. But we're not saying they have to be as tall as the extended solar panel, right?
So at full tilt means, let's just simplify it. At noon, they're going to be at full tilt. Or probably in the morning, they would be at full tilt because they're facing east toward the sun. So they're going to tilt with the sun. So in the morning, and if it's the kind that goes all the way over, like the ones out on the highway, then morning and evening, they would be at full tilt. So if, say, first thing in the morning, we make them have a 10-foot fence, you're only going to have 2 feet of the panel showing for just a couple hours. Or we can make it to where the fence is completely covering it. That's the point, is it gives us full discretion.
I mean, I'm sorry, go ahead, Ms. McClellan. I think based on some of the responses of what you just said, Mr. Bateman, that the fencing is intended to hide the panels, correct? So if you don't set the code appropriately and it can be peeking over the top, I think you haven't hit the mark of what you're trying to hit.
But we don't have to make it peeking over the top.
Right.
We had to put parameters in here. So instead of 30-foot panels, Wes come up with the idea 12 feet full tilt.
Okay. Alderwoman Ross, did you have a question?
I just had a question. You mentioned R1 and R2. We'd have them in the residential area, possibly? Correct. Then commercial area also, and industrial areas.
This is basically covering everything.
Okay.
Alderman Downs.
So, I kind of feel like this is a little bit of an overreach. You mentioned full discretion in regards to the fence that goes around this. So, in regards to the size of the panels, the current current ordinance right now states that anything over half an acre will get a special use permit. So but according to the new ordinance, anything requires a special use permit. So if I just wanted to have like one or two small solar panels in my yard, that still has to come to the council to get approval, and I still have to have a fence around it. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yes.
Okay.
Ground mounted solar. That's all this is addressing, is ground mounted solar.
Correct. Yeah, ground mounted solar. I understand that. I feel like that's an overreach. I don't know if I can get down with that.
Alderman Parrott.
Yeah, John, do you know what the current code is for just height of fencing around a property, a residential property? Is there one?
Yeah, I believe it's 6 foot.
6 foot. That's what I was thinking, and so I think we had a neighbor a few years back. They put one up and it was higher than 6, and they got in some trouble for that. I think they had to take it down or whatever. Well, the easy fix for that is to put one ground mounted solar panel, at the height of the fence, so that you can increase the height of your fence around your yard, your property. Is that what it means? That's a workaround? How do we need to stop something like that? I mean, why do we have a 6 foot height?
It's residential, though. You're talking residential, right?
Residential.
Yeah, and I think that we're talking residential's not allowed. First, not allowed in residential.
I believe we're taking that out.
We're taking that out.
Yes.
Okay.
Alderwoman McClellan. Yeah, something else.
But also, just back to the height thing again. I think we have to decide whether we want the solar panels to peak, like you were saying, over the top. I think we need to make that decision, and we either need to say they need to be the height of the extended to hide everything, or we need to realize that they're going to show over the top of the fence. And we need to make that. I think we need to make that decision to make sure that we know what it's going to look like when it's done. So.
That's why they have to come in front of the council.
But are you going to, for each person, say, but your fence is going to be this, or are they going to know when they come that they're going to have to put up a fence that's the height of their panels?
By changing this ordinance, they should realize that when they come forward, if they're going to sit in that chair and say, I want to mount a 12-foot solar panel at full tilt, they need to know that the city may make them put a 12-foot fence at full tilt.
Right. So to me, it doesn't say that yet. The words don't exactly say that yet, so maybe we need to just
It says
curate that a little
not taller than panels themselves when oriented at full tilt.
not taller.
As in, if the panels are 12-foot full tilt, the council cannot tell them they got to put a 15-foot fence up.
Yeah, but
That's
if,
what I'm getting at. It says not taller.
She's saying, does it say that it has to be 12 foot? It says not taller. So the fence could be 6 foot, but at full tilt it could be 12.
If we decide that going down Woodlawn Road, the solar panels are 12-foot full tilt, and this council says you only need to put a 6-foot fence up, then that means 8 people decided that at full tilt, 6 feet of these panels are going to show. That's why the wording is in there, not taller than. It's a minimum of 6 feet, not taller than panels at full tilt.
Wouldn't it be more clear if it said must be as tall as?
Yeah.
Yeah. And no taller than 12.
I mean, you can leave your language in there and say not taller than, but must be at a minimum the height of the panels at full tilt. It covers both ends of what I think what everybody's saying. Otherwise, you got to.
That's fine. The way I read it is the council gets to decide. If you guys want to stamp it and put it in wording, then fine. Wes came up with the wording so that we decide what the fencing is. You know, what if it's behind their building and they don't need a 12-foot fence because it's behind their building? As anybody knows, the further you get away from something, you know, a 6-foot fence 100 feet away, okay, then change it however you want.
Alderman Eimer.
What you're saying is now the council is going to pick and choose who's going to get the 12-foot fence or not, is what it sounds like to me. I mean, am I reading that right? I mean, if the council's making the decision. That's not what I'm reading. I mean, so does Joe Blow get by with just a 6 and somebody maybe we don't like, oh, I mean, you're going to put a 12, which costs more. I'm just asking.
I think it would be a better experience for the applicant and more clear for the council if there were some pretty clear guidelines put in so that they understood what they needed to do. And then when they came before, they didn't have to worry about coming in with one understanding and then us having a 30-40 minute discussion about the ambiguity of the language. I think it would just help the council more if that language was there. That's my opinion on the matter for what it's worth.
I'll make a motion, we table it, and I'll get back with Mr. Woodhull to
Can I ask a question before you do?
concrete wording in it.
Alderwoman Rolfs.
We talk about Woodlawn. Well, I think of Woodlawn and Keokuk. And I know we have fence ordinances, but I'm not sure that all of the fence ordinances are being followed. There's one that's from College Avenue that goes back. It's right on the sidewalk, and it's very tall. If we have solar farms or these solar panels and they have the fences, are we doing any restrictions about something that might obscure people from being able to see around a corner where those fences are, because it could cause an accident?
if I read it right, I think there's setbacks. They have to be setback so far from the road.
Okay, well, so are the fences, and they're not set back in several locations around our area.
I would suggest you turn that fence in on the code enforcement people and let them decide whether that's against it or not. Sitting here and complaining about it and nobody turning it in to the code enforcement to see if it's within rules or not doesn't change anything. That's what that app is for. I know Mr. Welch uses the app. Several people use the app.
Yeah,
you find something that you think's questionable, you should just question it.
Well,
and then
when
you
I
can
was
get clarity.
asking you, I wasn't necessarily making a complaint. I have a question about if with the solar panels, there are setbacks that are required so that we won't run into a problem where visibility for the traffic in those areas like Woodlawn and Keokuk, where there could be any accident. That's pretty much what I wasn't complaining about.
Setbacks are in the first part of the ordinance.
But you're talking about setbacks. Are you talking about the reference to the setbacks for current fencing just around your yard? Because I know that there's language about fence, and then when it extends beyond the face of the house and how tall it must be and stuff like that. So,
None of that's in this, because this is only solar.
right, but I think what some of the council members are saying, and Steve brought this up, is there's possibly a loophole here that needs to be addressed, or a gray area. Because if we're talking about fencing around solar, we got to make sure that it's in alignment with fencing on properties in general. Is that safe to say?
If it's residential, then
Yeah.
definitely.
So,
But
I
even
think,
commercial, if you can't see other traffic.
yeah, I think what would be best is if we just brought this back at the next cow. You talk with Mr. Woodhull, make sure that the concerns of the council have been addressed in the language, and then bring it back. Sorry to drag this on further, but we should get it right before we codify it. Because solar, I mean,
take it that the council wants to make an absolute resolution on the site of the fence instead of the council discussing the fence and determining what it needs. You're wanting absolute language, not a language where the person comes forward and the council goes out to the property. I would drive out there, see, what we're talking about, and determine what needs to be done. You're wanting the way I understand it is you're wanting the language to change in the section of the fencing that says that the fence has to be the exact height of the panels at full tilt. Even though full tilt is literally minuscule time during the day.
It's long enough to be annoying.
the idea of having the fencing is to obstruct the view of the solar. And if that is in fact the case, it should obstruct the view of the solar 24 hours a day. I think that's what some members are trying to say. I don't want to speak for the council, but that's what I'm hearing. Okay. Any other conversation on this topic? Okay, so Mr. Bateman, you'll work with Mr. Woodhull and Mr. Hoblet, correct? Yep. Okay, thank you. Okay, before we move on to item number 10, since we're talking about solar, Andrew, did you want to talk with the council about this sheet that's been laid on the council members' desks since this was a request of the council in the past?
Absolutely. Good evening, all. So on your desk, you're going to find a solar savings sheet. Alderman Parrott, this was built based on the request from you, and it has to do just with the generation cost. So there's no distribution costs in here. So don't take that as we're saving 23.306% in 23 off of the total bill. That's just on the generation costs. So that table down at the bottom breaks down to the dollar value, the discrepancy between the aggregation rate of 7.1 cents a kilowatt hour and 4 cents a kilowatt hour, based on how much solar that was generated that we were able to use. That's our savings for 23 is $30,757.70. 2024 is $71,917.66. And 2025 is $45.37. You may be asking why 2025 is so much lower than what the others are, and that goes back to what Alderman Bateman was talking about 2 weeks ago, and the issue with the solar between both the solar company and Ameren currently. So we're not receiving a ton of benefit due to it being down right now, but they are working on correcting that.
It's not down. If you drive out there, I didn't mean to sound like you were wrong there, Andrew. It's not down. It's generating electricity, but unfortunately, lightning struck the control panel and they're facing direct east. So at about noon on, we're generating next to no power because these are tiltable solar panels that follow the sun, and they're now not following anything. So that's I'm going to get with the solar company tomorrow to see where we're at, because Ameren's been dragging their feet on replacing it is their piece of equipment that needs to be replaced, and It's not costing them anything by not fixing it, but it's costing us, as you can see, a large amount of money.
How long has it been down?
So it started having issues towards the end of October.
Yeah.
Have they given us an idea when they'll be out to fix it?
So as Alderman Bateman just said there, it's between Ameren and Keystone right now, and I do believe he's correct in speaking about the asset. It has to do with the PME5 out there. It's an interconnect switch. It's about a $300,000 piece of equipment, and I'm not sure where that's going to land.
Just a reminder, before the solar garden came online, Ameren had another piece of equipment that got, I believe, Andrew, correct me if I'm wrong, got struck by lightning up north. They came and borrowed the one that was here, and it took them 8-9 months to bring it back. So they're not in a
Don't remember
hurry.
the exact timeline, but that sounds correct.
They're not in a hurry to fix it.
I mean, we should be stressing the importance of that since it's part of a lease agreement, right? Okay, so you'll find out where we're at tomorrow. Okay. Okay, so are there any questions? Are there any questions about the information that Andrew has presented to the council? Alderman Parrott?
I just want to thank you, Andrew. I appreciate this. I think the council appreciates this.
Absolutely. It is very difficult, and this is absolutely not a solo on me. I would like to thank both Clerk Bateman and Charity Hutchins immensely for being able to pull some of the background data for the kilowatt usage. That was a daunting task is a nice way of putting it.
But I think it shows, the council, it shows the community, the cost savings in 2024. And if it was down in October, it would have exceeded, maybe come up to 100,000.
Mm-hmm.
There's definitely that potential there, yes.
And I want to reiterate, this is just for the solar treatment facility, and I don't know how big that solar garden is out there, but in April they're going to start a 20-acre community solar project, and that power will benefit every single building in the city of Lincoln. So that's why we're doing this. It was floodplain property. We were generating less than a penny an acre on it, and so when it comes to solar, these are the kind of pieces of property that this is built for, is because there's not much use for that property other than something like this. So it is going to benefit the city in the long run. It's been a headache, but I mean it will benefit in the long run in some significant savings.
Okay. Any other questions for Andrew? Okay. Thank you, Andrew. Appreciate your time. Okay, moving on to the last item on the agenda this evening, item number 10, renewal of certificate of deposit. Treasurer Conzo.
Thank you, Mayor. As I think all of you know, we currently have two certificates of deposit. One of them was a 6-month certificate of deposit. It has reached maturity date. I have talked with the bank that currently holds this, as well as a couple of other banks. They have a special at United Community Bank, which would give us a 4.35% renewal rate of interest rate on renewing that. It had been 5.25% initially. That has gone down. I would, and again, this was as of the beginning of the week, and they can change from day to day. I'm not anticipating that it's going to change much, but I would like council's permission to go ahead and renew this and have that placed on the agenda, but I don't want to, if possible, I'd like to do it sooner in case something develops where we see a decrease in the interest rate, which could even happen tomorrow. So what I'm asking you to do is A, put this on the agenda, and B, allow me to proceed with this as if this were Monday night. and you were voting on this, would like to know if that's permissible with you, with all of you.
Thoughts from the council?
You're wanting to renew it tomorrow?
Yes.
Okay. I'm okay with that. I trust you with the money, Chuck.
Thank
No, I don't show it all.
you. I appreciate it.
So are there any objections from the council? Okay, so we'll go ahead and place this on the regular agenda for next week. Okay. All right. More savings. Okay, that brings us down to announcements. Does anybody have an announcement they'd like to make this evening? Mr. Conzo and then Ms. Bateman.
Oh, go ahead.
We have the final counts on the sewer that people paid a year in advance. There was 1,120 accounts that paid for the year. That was $503,340.89. So from last year, we had 21 more accounts that paid than last year, and the difference of $42,433. So you people took advantage of it. Yep.
And please tell your staff thank you. I know they were swamped and very busy for several weeks, but I think it's great that the council chose to extend this 10% to the constituents to help them save money as well. So, and thank you for your work on that as well. Anything from the council on that? Okay, Mr. Conzo?
Thank you, Mayor. Union Pacific Railroad is about to unveil a new commemorative locomotive, and it's going to be honoring our 16th president with certainly a lot of ties to Logan County and the city of Lincoln. This is going to be locomotive number 1616, appropriately, because he was the 16th president of the United States. And it's to commemorate also the signing of the Pacific Railway Act of 1862, which led to the creation of the Union Pacific Railroad, which was part of the transcontinental route. So you should see this on this line at some point, and I read this from their press release. And it says, since this year marks the 216th birthday of Abraham Lincoln, the locomotive will travel the rails, serving as traveling ambassador and participating in community events and educational programs that highlight the historic role of railroads in America's growth and continued contribution to our country, communities, and economy. Future dates will be announced at up.com. They have a heritage fleet, and I've ridden on some of those cars. They have with the E9 diesels, which were diesel that was in use in the 50s and 60s. And they have 2 steam locomotives that are periodically used for fan trips. And this will be, they'll be using, they won't, I don't know if they'll be using this for anything like that, but this will be regular service hauling a freight train. So you may see it come through here in that purpose, for that purpose as well. I would add to that, too, this is only the second time that Union Pacific in its history, which goes back to 1862, only second time that they've named a locomotive after a president of the United States. The other one was another great president, George Herbert Walker Bush. They named that, and that was used to pull his funeral train to College Station, Texas, and it was also in regular freight service. I did see it on this line at one time. It's now on permanent display at the George Bush Presidential Library and Museum in College Station, Texas.
Chuck, would that have been 4141?
Yes, it is. Thank you.
4141.
Alderman Parrott, I'm glad you mentioned that. I forgot to. It is 4141.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Conzo. Mr. Bateman.
Well, those of you that didn't know, this weekend was the John Welch tournament. If you didn't, I know Mr. Welch worked, and I attended several games because I have an interest in one of the players. But I don't know who all is involved in that group. I know the Frobies are deeply involved, so congratulations to them and everybody else that worked it. That was, I know the schedule just for my grandson, that was, I want to say probably hundreds of games at every single gym in this city except for Lincoln College. For some reason, they don't want us to use their gyms. But hats off to the schools, the people that worked it, you know, the people that are involved. I know the restaurants were packed. There was teams from out of state, all over the state, several teams from Springfield and such. So congratulations. That's one of those events that just comes and goes and people don't realize it, but there's a lot of work that goes behind that kind of stuff. And I hope they keep it rolling. I do know that the softball tournament that the Frobies put on and their helpers will be during the Balloons Over 66 barbecue event again this year. I think they plan on doubling the number of teams that weekend. It's a girls softball tournament. So, again, those kind of things go unnoticed, and they should be awarded such accolades of how hard it is to do that.
Alderman Parrott.
Yeah, just want to wish, congratulate again Coach Dietrich and the Lincoln Railroaders wrestling team this past year. They wrestled team this past Tuesday, and unfortunately they didn't get past Muhammad Seymour, but they had a great season.
Thank you. Anybody else have an announcement they'd like to share? One I just thought of worth mentioning. This week is the last week for Sorrento's, and they will be open Thursday and Friday. They are likely to be extremely busy. So if you do patronize them, please be patient with their staff as they're going through this transition. We'll miss having them in the community, and wish the best for the Drews. They've given a lot to the community over the years, and hope to see Sorrento's back in some shape or fashion in the future. Alderman Parrott.
Yeah, we'll miss the slices of pizza at the third Fridays.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Somebody's got to pick that up.
Yeah. Okay, Mr. Landers.
Yes, I just wanted to make everybody aware that next week, we're not sure what time, if everything goes the way it's supposed to, Illinois American Water will be doing some work in the 100 block of North Kickapoo Street. There between Rio and Abe's in that area, and that street will be closed down if everything goes as planned, that they're planning on working on it next week. So that's just a major street right there with businesses and stuff. So we'll try to do our best to, I know they'll hire a traffic control company to put out signs and everything, but I believe we'll probably utilize our electronic signs and try to give people heads up about it so they don't get down in there and get stuck. But we're looking to see that probably start sometime next week. Not sure of a date or anything or time, but we'll try to get a press release out 24 hours beforehand.
Okay. Thank you. Any other announcements? Okay, if there are no other announcements, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Is there a second? Alderman Downs made the motion to adjourn. Alderman Eimer second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? This meeting is adjourned at 7:08 p.m.